And I mean, I knew. There was no question. God had prepared me for that moment all that time. And I didn't know that that's what was happening. So my name is Stan Nelson, and this is my wife Denise. And 5 years ago, we were led to open a new ministry in Guatemala. It's called Rocsana's Hope, and it is a home that is for the sole purpose of girls who are aging out of their orphanages at 18, and they have nowhere to go, no one to help them, and they are prime targets for people that want to exploit them. In fact, girls that age out of orphanages at 18 are 10 times more at risk to get scooped up by human traffickers than other girls their own age in Guatemala. We saw that need and knew we had to do something, and so we started Rocsana's Hope. This is our son Andy, who is conducting this interview for us, and he has been good enough to sit down with us and tell the story of the faceless girl that we're getting ready to tell. That title may seem odd, but I guarantee you by the end of this story, you will understand and appreciate, and you might even have your heart tugged a little bit when you hear this story.
You guys first conceived the idea of Rocsana's Hope while you were still working at the initial orphanage in Santa Cruz del Quiche, is that right?
Yes. Yeah, we were working at that orphanage. We'd rented a home on the other side of town, and we were just working at the orphanage, and 2 of their girls aged out and came and lived with us, and we were taking care of them.
So who first suggested the idea of opening a home of your own for girls aging out of orphanages?
That is a cool part of the story. Those 2 girls that came to live with us, they were sisters, Paola and Rocsana. And it was Rocsana after dinner. She said, "Papa Stan, you and Mama Denise should think about opening a home for girls like us."
So where does one begin? Like, what is the first step of venturing out like this? Did you even have a clue of what to do?
No, I mean, not really, because the first thing I did was I just thought there was probably a ministry or a program already like that down there. And my initial thought was, hey, maybe if we ever leave this place, we could go to work for something like that. But when I got on Google and I started searching for those kinds of homes in Guatemala, we searched and we searched and we searched, and there wasn't one. There wasn't a single place doing that. And at that point, I don't think we still knew about all the aspects of what we were going to be dealing with, because the initial idea was to just help some girls that are getting out of orphanages, help them with their education a little bit so they can be on their own. But there was a whole other aspect coming that we did not know about at first, but it became huge. The next thing we did is we began to pray. Mm-hmm. And eventually, by the end of 2017, we resigned from that orphanage and we returned to the United States. It wasn't exactly clear yet, but we knew we wanted to do something with the girls down there. And so we returned to the United States and we began laying the foundation for Rocsana's Hope, filing all of our paperwork, getting everything squared away legally, raising additional support, starting to travel and share. And that started in early 2018.
So from what we gather, there was something you guys began experiencing early on when you were in the process of setting up Rocsana's Hope for here in the United States. Can you tell us about that?
It was almost right away when we really, once it kind of coalesced what we were going to do. Very early in the process, my mind started forming a picture. It was an image of a girl. I would see it when I would pray, and I would see it when I was driving. It wasn't all the time, but it just kept coming up, and it was always the same picture. And what it was a girl with long brown hair, a black top and blue jeans, and she had her hands reaching out like she was reaching out for help. And I could see every bit of her except for the face. The face was always blank. And I think as that continued to happen, I think in my mind, I said, you know what I think I'm seeing? I think that I'm seeing the image of the first girl that we're going to help. And one day, it's all vision right now, one day that the vision of Rocsana's Hope, the first girl, there's going to be a face. But I didn't let myself go there very much, although the image just kept coming up.
So at this point, obviously there's a vision for Rocsana's Hope. When did this translate into the action of beginning the process of opening up a home down in Guatemala?
I'd say probably by the fall of 2018, we got everything done legally. We had raised support, and people were just coming out of the woodwork to help. It was so cool to watch how God provided. And we had a couple helping us named Jeff and Esther. And Jeff and I were talking, and we said, you know what? It's time to go down to Guatemala and start looking for a place. We kind of had an idea of what we would need. We wanted a place where we could house a family or maybe two families and have multiple rooms and bathrooms for girls that would come and stay with us. And we weren't going to find it sitting here. So we went down to Guatemala and we found a house, and then we signed a lease on that house the first week of December of 2018. And once we signed that lease, we came back to the United States, started preparing, because we were going to take possession of the house February 1st of 2019.
From that first day in February on, what did the process look like from there out?
Okay, so from that point on, it was buying stuff and getting the house ready. And when you rent a house in Guatemala, they don't leave anything. They even take the light bulbs. And so we had to buy furniture, we had to buy beds, we had to buy bedding, we had to buy appliances, cookware, silverware, plates, everything you need to have a home. Living room furniture, dining room furniture, beds and stuff for the staff, dressers for the girls. It was just, we had to do everything. And we spent all of February and all of March working on that every day solid for 2 months.
Wow. Did you have a planned date for a grand opening?
Yes. The plan was we were going to return to the United States at the end of March. We were going to spend about 3 weeks there closing on our final affairs before we moved to Guatemala. We were going to return to Guatemala the last week of April, and we set the middle of May for our grand opening. That was the plan. Someone once said that we make plans and God laughs. So
yeah,
I think he was laughing on that one too, because what he did was amazing.
So what did end up happening instead?
This is where it gets good.
Yeah.
When we were in the airport, Jeff and Esther and I getting ready to head back to the United States, I just had a feeling. I just was a feeling. And I said to Jeff, I said, you know what? I bet you someone contacts us and they're going to want us to take a girl before our grand opening in May. And he said, you think? And I said, yeah. I just have a feeling that could happen. I'm not predicting it, but I could see it happening. We got back to the States, and the very next day, I get a message from a lady, an American lady, but she was director of a larger orphanage in Guatemala, a private orphanage, and it was called Eagle's Nest. And she asked she said, "Are you Stan Nelson?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Are you all the ones that are going to be opening that home for girls, the Rocsana soap?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "We have a girl that needs your help." And don't ask me why, but in my mind I'm thinking, we're not open yet. That's another 6 weeks away. And we just got back to the States. We're not ready. And I kind of said that to her, but I didn't want to say no, but I just was hesitant. And she said, this girl, she needs your help. And she told me her story. And she talked about how this girl had been turned out, and she wound up with a gang who were abusing her, beating her. They stole everything, and she got caught up into that with this gang. Her and a few other girls. She had been wrapped up in that for a little while, but she was trying to escape. In her own words, she was trying to escape. And I guess they were in town somewhere, in a town, and I think it's up by where that orphanage was, or not far from there. They had gone into town, some of the gang guys, with some of the girls, and she was one of them. And I don't know what they were doing. I think they were selling drugs and also trying to do the prostitution thing. And she realized there was a bus terminal not far from them, maybe about, I don't know, 20 yards. And she realized that this could be her one chance. And so what she did is she started backing up very slowly. She just started stepping real slowly and backing up. And what she was doing is she was trying to create distance. And down there, when these bus things, it's like minivans that just transport people around town. They pay a few cents, that kind of thing. And she saw this one, and it was pulling up. And she did what some girls are unable to do because they're too afraid. Because if they don't succeed. And she turned and ran with all of her might. The driver saw her, and he saw the gang chasing after her. And they usually have a young guy in there to take the money and stuff. And he said to her, his help, when she gets in, close the door. And they were chasing after her. And they were right on her. She got in, he slammed the door, the guy pulled out, they were beating on the doors that drove away. And she was in hysterics when she got in the van. And someone in the van offered to let her use their phone, said if you need to call someone. So she called this lady, the director. And now this director was saying, we have her, we can't take her back to the orphanage. We really need to bring her. And I was still kind of, I don't know why, I wasn't sure what to do. Sometimes I look back and I think, maybe that was God preparing me for what was getting ready to happen in that moment. And something did happen.
So what happened that confirmed to you that this was the faceless girl that you kept seeing in your mind?
She sent me a picture. The orphan lady sent me a picture of her, this girl, and one of the staff members, Tiffany. I don't know why she did that, because I didn't ask. And she sent me this picture. And there was a girl with long hair, black shirt, blue jeans. And in that moment, I think the only thing God said was, there she is. And I knew exactly what he meant. The face of the faceless girl was now there. And that is a moment I will never forget in my life. I can't even tell you how that felt, but I knew what to say. And we were calling by then, and I said, we'll take her. And I mean, I knew. There was no question. God had prepared me for that moment all that time. And I didn't know that that's what was happening. And I didn't know when they wanted to bring her. I was thinking a day or 2 or 3. And she said, well, we're about 45 minutes away. Can we bring her for us? We're like, whoa. I just got back to the States. I got to call my house parents because they're not expecting this.
Yeah.
And so I hung up and I called Selvin and Lukey and told them. And they're like, when's she coming? I said, 45 minutes. What do we do? What do we do? They were like, what do we do? You know?
Yeah.
And here's what I said. I said, when she gets there, just receive her. Take her up to where she's going to be able to sleep. Show her a nice bedding. Give her her towels and toiletries and everything. Let her take a long shower as long as she wants. Give her some good food, and then just love on her. And tell her it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. She doesn't have to fear anymore.
Obviously, the story of Rocsana's hope doesn't end with just the one girl.
Right.
So what happened next after that?
Well, her story didn't end there either, because what happened, this is how God does things. The very next day, we were in a church in Ark City, Kansas. And this had just happened the day before. So I was sharing the story with the church, right? And there was this woman, I didn't know her, and she came up to our table because we had a table set up. And she didn't say a word after that. She just sat down, she opened her laptop. She started typing. And she said, can you be at KCI at 4 a.m. tomorrow? Yeah. And I said, well, yeah. This is in the afternoon at Ark City.
Yeah.
She said, is a week enough? I said, yeah. And she bought my ticket right there. She bought my plane ticket to go back the next day. I looked at Denise and I was like, we're 4 hours away from Kansas City right now.
Yeah.
We got to drive back, load our stuff, drive back. I got to throw things together. And I got to get up at 2:30 in the morning to be at the airport at 4. And it went so fast, I had a short layover in Houston. And at noon, 12:30, I'm standing at the entrance of Rocsana's Hope. And I didn't have a chance to call Selvin and Lukey. They didn't know I was coming. So I stood there and I hit the intercom. And she come out, and we have one of these, like, it's a solid steel gate. Big thing opens for cars, and there's a regular door that opens, but then there's a little flap door to look from inside to see who's out there. And she opened the door, and her eyes just got real big. And she started screaming, Papa Stan aquí! Papa Stan aquí! And she'd opened the door. I was walking in, and her husband come running out. The girls come running out. Rocsana come running out, because she was there. And her husband come running out, Alberto. And their little boy come running out. And then Deanna appeared at the door. And I didn't know what to do either, because you hear that sometimes girls who have that kind of trauma are afraid to be around men or to be touched or anything like that. I didn't know what to do. And so I just kind of waited to see what she would do. And she didn't hesitate. She ran straight at me. And I could see her face. She was already crying before she got there. She just jumped. She almost knocked me over. And she jumped, and we just started crying. She hugged me tight and wouldn't let go. And Selvin and Lukey came around, and everyone came around, and it was a big hug fest, prayer fest, and ball fest. That's what it was. And again, that is a moment that I will never forget. The faceless girl was Deanna. And she is so precious. And every day, and I message with her almost every day to this day. And she is a walking miracle. Because most girls, what happened to her, most girls don't come out of that alive.
Mm-hmm.
But God had a plan for her and still has a plan for her. The faceless girl.